to understand the desert, what I have learned during these years is that you need a transdisciplinary approach. And even though the complexity of the oasis must be studied in order to understand the different dimensions of the desert, especially when talking about space and time, because it is not that it can change at any moment, but it is also because you need to understand what happened and what is happening in the north of the African continent. You need to go to another smaller scale. And if you just study this small scale, you are not going to understand what is happening abroad. And in this transition between a small and a bigger scale, there is always one element that is going to be common for all of them, which is water. For example, to understand the importance of the water of this well, you have to know that in the oasis, when you are going to find a aksar or a zawiya or a gazba, you are going to find the well, if there is just one, in the mosque. Then if the aksar is bigger, maybe you are going to find other. But the main one is always, almost always, for the mosque. So you start to understand also the importance of this smoke in a fortified city called Qasar. But of course there are another elements like architecture, rammed earth, but now we are going to talk about the philosophy behind the oasis and the spaces that they can create adapted to the several conditions they have to support. And also the Aksar, you have to understand what is the relation with the palm grove. The palm grove or other kind of forest, because sometimes the oasis is not just about palm trees. And how they are connected, the people, how they move, the mobility inside the oasis, where again the element the most important is water, which means first of all you need to get water to all the plots, and then you are going to establish the public spaces. Then you realize that you have to learn more about what is a palm grove, about the agriculture, about the water issues, about the social organization, and also about geography, because the palm groves are almost in all the cases in valleys limited by mountains. For example, and this one is Ketawa in Zagora. And if we look closer to the palm grove, we see all these white places that in fact are villages. They are Oksur, Zawaya, and Kasabat. There are almost 70. Some of them are completely abandoned, others half abandoned, and others are completely used by people. And they are all inside the palm grove. And then, overall, during the French protectorate, there were some urban planning developed, as you can see in Tagunit. But if we go north of this palm grove in the Dra Valley, there is the Mesquita palm grove, which is much more narrow and where there is only one aksar inside. The others are on the border. And one of the problems of the oasis today is the urban planning, the new development they are doing. They are doing as like a pression, and the palm groves in some places are disappearing. It is not just the only reason. There are many others, like sometimes the lack of water, sometimes the immigration, sometimes social problems because people prefer to go to Marrakech or to Casablanca to work. It doesn't matter if they have work to do there. Or people that prefer to work on tourism rather than in the palm grove, because they think that if you are an agriculture, you are a poor man. However, they can get a lot of money with the dates. And hopefully now they are starting to plant a lot of palm trees in several places of Morocco as an investment. No? And the worst is that the urban planning are made by architects that know nothing about the desert. So they think that they can propose the same thing as in Rabat or Casablanca without taking into consideration all the problems and all the possibilities they have. Without talking about the material they are using now, the concrete blocks. And it's always a question, a matter of a social point of view, because if you build a new house in concrete, it means you have now more money and your social status has changed. But then if we go, as I said, in a larger image, these valleys were used by caravans. And these caravans came from the east, but also from the south, crossing the valley, the Ziz Valley, or crossing the Dra Valley, or sometimes the third point of arrival of caravans was Tamdult, and the fourth more important was Nullamta, near Gelmim. I demand you, please to remember this name, Nullamta. So there were 4 points. Sometimes they are called Saharan ports: Numlanta, Tamdult, Hamid al-Ghizlan, which was called Taragalt, and Rizani, which was Sijil Masa. The way the caravans arrived and the direction, it depending also of the period of the time, and if the capital was in Fez or was in Marrakesh, or also the relation between the tribes in each territory, and of course the lack of water. But these spaces, these axes, they were also connected, sometimes with small oases like Tagajisht. Sometimes people were just looking for water, and there is a spring near Tirmat where still today you can see how it is used by the nomads and by other people having animals. And if not, the nomads need to also move, and they need to find some water. Sometimes there are wells, and sometimes they just know where to find. A long time ago, a nomad told me, no, there is a kind of plant. If you see that plant, you know that maybe 50 centimeters deeper, you're going to find water. When I started to meet nomads and that were moving between these axes, but staying in the middle, not in the oasis, I started to be more curious about what a nomad is. And the road they follow. So that was very important to understand the road of the nomads, which were very similar to the caravan routes. You can see there Sijil Masa, Tamdult, and Numlanta, that were connected to Mauritania and Mali. So that was great to read some books, to make some researches on internet, but I told myself, that's great, but why don't you start to walk through these caravan routes, to make a practical research? So in 2016, I went from Tisarmin near Rizani to Hamid al-Ghizlan with Salim and 2 camels. It was around 300 kilometers that we did in 15 days. We met a lot of nomads, we had a lot of conversations. After sharing the information, which is something I think is very important to share information instead of keeping in our computers, some people starting to contact me. Some of them they were already a friend of mine, but others not, because they were very interested in this question of caravans. Like Leonora Castagnone, sociologist from Italy, she wanted to compare this road with the road that immigrants do today to arrive to Europe, and it was almost the same. We started to share information with Ahmad Al-Fatni from Sudan, with Oli Bonzanigo, with Heidi, who is here, with Pau Gata. And with this information, collecting from the Khartoum University, from Gardaya, because Pau was there, we starting to collect all the information related to caravan routes and to put all of them on Google Maps. So everybody can have access. But besides that, we were talking about why not to do a second caravan, and we called that Beyond Kafila Thania, in collaboration with Serka through Platform Harakat, which was a project of Kibrit. We went this time from Hamid al-Ghizlan to Tizind with, you can see Pau, Mohammed, Amado, Embark, Sheikh, Abdu behind, and with me was Heidi and Said. No?
I didn't recognize Embark. Neither Pau.
I remember last year when we did the round table after this caravan, some of the people asked us, why are you walking in the desert with the nomads? What is the purpose? What are you going to learn?
We're gonna ask this question too.
Embark told, I was just following Carlos. And I said, why not? I had the curiosity of learning more and more. But then 1 year later, I started to realize that maybe it should be a positive question, and I could provide some information which could be useful for the urban development of the desert regions. So someone from the Territory Planning and Urban Planning Ministry in Rabat, who I met in Zagora during a forum about OASES, he called me because they started to develop the Dakhla with Dahab region, where there is no OASES, but there are a lot of nomads. And they didn't know how to do. In fact, they did an urban planning in OASES, this is a picture taken last year. Now it's, except some houses, the other buildings, even the building they built, they are completely abandoned. So even the administration now is in Dakhla, which is 260 kilometers far from the place. So they know that they cannot apply the same system they apply everywhere, which is a problem, but it is also a possibility, because they don't know what to do and they have to do in a different way. So last month, at the beginning of November, we had a seminar in Birgandus near Dakhla with all people concerning urban territory planning in the region. And I told them, look, the first thing you have to talk with the people living there. You think there are not a lot of people, but I have never crossed so many cars like that. There are around with Defender. I knew, because I was starting to study, that it was a region with a lot of nomads. And you have to ask them what they need. After the caravans, I knew that they have some problem with education, with the health system, because there is no hospital, there is nothing. There is a problem of water. So, but I told myself, I have seen how in the Dra Valley, in the Ziz Valley, how the oasis can work. And even if you apply the elements that in Europe we consider to say if something is sustainable, which is most of the time also something just administrative, I'm pretty sure that with the oasis you are going to be out of the list. So I told them, why you don't apply the oasis, the philosophy behind the oasis, to do the same thing there? Because we are going to be protected from the wind, we are going to be protected from the sun, we are going to have an ecosystem, you are going to have food, you are going to have life. It was just an idea, also to find the aerodynamic in order to avoid the sun to be stopped there. It's just an idea. I don't know if we are going to develop that. But the oasis can be also a laboratory for contemporary culture. And that's what we have been doing for 4 years in Tirmart. In fact, in 2014, there were lots of floods all over the south of Morocco. But in Tirmart, they were isolated for 2 weeks. And during 2 weeks, nobody came to see if they needed something. We are talking about Tirmart, where there are, Tirmart and Asarit, maybe 3,000 people. So Ahmed, with other friends, they started to organize themselves to just to relocate people that maybe the roof came down, or just to watch the level of the river if some of their houses must be evacuated. And it is something that happened in 2014. These pictures, I took that 3 weeks ago, and we stayed 3 days without going out of the oasis because of the river, which means it was 4 years ago, the government did nothing at all yet. So Ahmed and Bushra Budali, that at that time was living in Tirmart, not now, they called me, Carlos, we need to do something because the people are very pessimistic. It has been very, very hard. Not just the question of being surrounded for 2 weeks, but the sensation of being abandoned by the government. The sensation of having no possibilities of being like the other people in Morocco. The problem of Tirmart is that it is not like the Dra Valley, where you are going to see hundreds and hundreds of kasar, oksur. You are not going to have a big kasbah, just 2 or 3 small. However, I told you to remember one name, Nur Lanta. In the 9th century, there were not a lot of cities as we understand today cities in Morocco. Maybe not. Fez, Sijil Massa, and Nur Lanta. Archaeological works from Spanish and Moroccan university until now has demonstrated that between Tirmart and Asarit, that at that period should be the same oasis, had a very important area because they were the last oasis before crossing the desert. No? And it has also a natural heritage, which is the spring. And in fact, the caravans arrived there because there was always water. Ahmed told me last month that the grandfather of a friend of him told him that never he has been, or he saw the spring without water, which means maybe for the last century always there has been water there. And overall, we decided, at the beginning it was a festival. We decided not to do a festival for the people living there, but with the people. And that's why when we started to call our friends, look, you wanted to discover the south, okay, now it's the moment. Or people from the south. We told them, look, we have no money. Well, until now we have no funding from authorities, just some private donors or the organizers of the event. So they have to pay the trip to come there, which is not easy because it's far away from here. And we offer them 3 possibilities. So first of all, they do workshops with the children, with the young people, and with the women. If you are a visual artist, you can do an art installation with things collected in the oasis because we had no money for the production, or you can do nothing at all, which means you can just walk, you can talk with the people, and you can observe. And when talking about difficulties of not having funding, there is also one thing which is very interesting. Then you don't have to justify nothing at all. So how can you take money from someone and then what did you do with the money? Nothing. The artist did nothing. No, you have to show something. No? And we know how difficult it is to arrive to a place which I remember Rami Al-Baladel from Iraq told me, Carlos, I have the sensation I'm in another country completely different. I don't understand the people and I don't understand the place. We did also workshops about contemporary dance. The workshops were also a way to come in the society of the Oasis. It was not just for having some entertainment for the people, but a way to get inside. No? Then people started to work in several subjects, like Rashid Oni on water. And also it was fantastic how a contemporary art installation can become an interactive one with people that never went to a museum. And you walk over there, and then these kids, they were just talking and touching water, or Halima Bardid also, she was there. And that's another thing very important, is how to make artists and to confront artists to the local population, and how you are going to express yourself and your need with someone that has never understood a word about contemporary art. In this case, with Heidi and Gilles, and with the women working in the field, we starting to talk with Ahmed, how are we going to get closer to them and to convince them to... You cannot see in this picture, but Heidi was with a Canon Scopia 16mm camera, something like that. You see Aubrey with the microphone. And that was amazing how we did. I think we did well. We invited them 2 months later to come to Tirmart and to see the result. Why they were there? Because at the beginning they thought it was for television. And then we use also a screening in the Oasis, not for them, for this woman, but also for other public, because to see what artists did the year before, it was very important. Again, not having money, it is not a problem sometimes. We don't have money for a stage. We are going to use the natural stage we can find there. Sometimes this memory museum, or sometimes the Palm Grove. We did concerts some years. Which is interesting is that these kids, they met each other thanks to activities made by a new association created by young people after the first edition of Caravan Tirmat. And they came from Gelmin. This year there were groups from Sidi Ifni, there were groups from Tirmat, non-professional, professional, and we didn't understand the importance of what we were doing until last year. The problem also of culture in the desert, in the north of Morocco, they are considered as folklore. However, sometimes it's much deeper than we can think. That was the Gedra dance, and we proposed Miriam Jazuli to come to the south and to make some researches about dances, and maybe why not a creation. So she came the first time alone, the second time with Malika Zara and Junet Anzan. We met Salam Yanda from Aim Shata, and Miriam was making some improvisation in the middle of the Oasis, and now her new creation called Folkhat that she's presenting all over Europe and Africa. People are asking, where is Tirmart and Gelmin, what is the Gedra, and why do you want to go to such a place to do things? No?
I think it's time to sum up.
Okay, I'm finishing. And we propose artists to work on and about the Oasis, not just to bring something. So we were promoting the creation, not just the fact of being there. At the beginning, we started in a house. We didn't want to work in the plots. Then there was someone over there that, no, I want to go farther from here. So then they realized that we could make a lot of things in with the nomads. And there are people that have been supporting as an artist, also as we say, the godfathers, Arzdal and Bark Bushishi. It was an amazing experience with all the artists that came over this year. And now we are calling that gathering. And we are very happy that artists that came to Tirma, they met each other. Sometimes they are working together, or then they came here to make exhibitions or conferences. So it is really a gathering in the large sense of the term. Almost the last picture, that was the last edition. And I'm very happy because you don't know who is the artist and who is the inhabitant of the oasis, because we were together during a week.
She knows.
So, I'm finishing with this image from Ahmed Dabah. It was the first year, the art installation of Mohamed Arzal. When he showed me the picture, I thought that he put all the kids in one position. No, he entered the hall, they saw them. And it looks like if they used to go to the Pompidou or to other museums. No, it was the first time. And then you ask them, which installation do you like most? No? And they reply you, and they justify why one and not the other. It was amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.